Hey guys, welcome to my double episode where I'm going to talk about all of the books that I own at least double copies of. To be fair, I also have to say that this is definitely the result of some procrastination on my part because I'm trying to reorganize my bookshelves, and instead of getting any reorganization done, I'm using this as a way to procrastinate my bookshelf reorganization. So you'll have to forgive me, but I thought it would be a fun episode to talk about books that I own at least double copies of. And it's not always my favorite books. Sometimes it's by accident, sometimes it's on purpose, and sometimes it's gifts. Tell me in the comments down below what copies of books that you own at least more than one copy of, and is it an accident? Is it on purpose? Why or why not? Be sure to let me know. So the first book stack that I want to show you are all books that are not science fiction. I figure let's get these out of the way early. So some of these are a little bit ridiculous. The first is a book series and author that is not for me. I always say his name wrong. Khaled Hosseini, I believe. And this is The Kite Runner. For some reason, I own 2 copies of this. I've already read the book Thousand Splendid Suns by him, and I really wasn't a fan. It's just not my writing style. It's just not my genre. These books just aren't for me. But this book was so popular that for some reason, I ended up with 2 versions of The Kite Runner. I'm sad to say that I'm going to be getting rid of both of these copies because I'm just not interested in reading them. The next is I own 2 copies of Ayn Rand's Anthem. How do I say that? Anthem. I own 2 copies of Ayn Rand's, is that how you say that? Ayn Rand? I'm not sure. I own 2 copies of her book Anthem. This copy has quite a few of her own critiques and writing skills, writing style, and this book I think I somehow ended up with probably from a college course. Interestingly enough, I have never read anything by her, and I really wanted to get into at least one of her philosophical works so I knew what she was about. I will probably be getting rid of the smaller version so I can see what kind of work she did on this piece of work. Although, to be honest, I don't know who would want the student edition of this, so I'm probably just gonna give it away in a book sale for free. And then last non-science fiction book, or fantasy book I should say, that I own a copy of is Edgar Allan Poe. I own quite a few tales and great poems by him with this terrible Walmart sticker that doesn't come off. It's part of the cover. And I own this little tiny paperback version, as well as owning the entire complete tales and poems. This is the gorgeous cover and version of this. I think this was a gift of mine. He is one of my all-time favorite poets and favorite authors, and I'm not exactly sure how I ended up with 2 copies of his work. I'll probably keep both, to be honest, because this is one that I can carry around and I don't care if I mess up. And this one was definitely a gift that is an easy, beautiful reference. Now let's move on to some of the more typical science fiction books. And I want to talk about the ones that I bought on purpose. Okay. The first version of this book is Leviathan Wakes. This is the paperback edition of Leviathan Wakes. That is the first in the series. That is the actual copy that I read. Man, I read this one a long time ago and I still have it, and I will probably forever keep it. But several years ago, one of the guys that I dated got me a beautiful shiny edition with the sprayed pages, and it has a gorgeous cover even if you take it off. I love the shininess of this. I love the print in this one. It has a beautiful cover. I mean, obviously this is the display version and the other version is the actual version that you read, but of course, given as a gift, this is definitely one that I'm going to keep. Next is one that I'm sure we all have on our shelves, and that is Dune. I mean, who doesn't own more than one version of Dune at this point, right? The movie and the popularity of this series is ridiculous. So this was just the little paperback edition that I was able to get at my local bookstore for like $3 because I wanted to read it before I went to see the movie. And then I got a gorgeous gifted edition. This is my favorite cover version of Dune. I think it's so beautiful. I just can't get over the colors, and it really captures what I interpret as Dune with the sand and the blue, and I love this cover. And of course, the inside is very beautiful as well, and I love that it has on the front cover, I'm not sure if you can see this very well, "Fear is the mind killer." So this is just such a gorgeous cover. I love this shiny edition. I think that the pictures on the inside cover of this are beautiful. The text is gorgeous. I mean, obviously another display version. These are the only two display copies of any books that I actually own, but I will be keeping both versions of these books because, of course, one is for display only. Next are books that I have only accidentally discovered more copies of, and they're versions that I'm really excited to keep. The first one is Isaac Asimov's The Gods Themselves. So I owned this old vintage version of The Gods Themselves, and I didn't remember that I had it, and somehow ended up with the Masterworks version of this book as well. This is a book that I have not yet read, but I plan to, and I'm really excited about reading another Asimov book. So definitely one that I'm going to be keeping at least one version of, and I'll probably be reading the version that has the better text or font. To be honest, it's probably the vintage copy. I'm probably going to keep this one, and I'm probably going to sell the SF Masterworks. I'll probably just drop it off at one of my local libraries or half-price books. Another one that I ended up accidentally with 2 copies of is 1984 George Orwell. I'm not exactly sure how I missed this one, but I definitely own this mass market paperback edition, and if I had known that this was the only one that I owned, I honestly think I've had this one since high school when I had to read it in English class. I'm not kidding you. I really do. I would have gotten rid of this one a long time ago if I had known. I'm not a huge fan of paperback, mass market paperback specifically, whereas this one is definitely more of a recent edition. I think I found this one slightly used, and I love the bigger trade paperback. I think that the cover is more interesting, and I love the bigger font on the inside. This is definitely the version I will be keeping, and I will definitely be getting rid of the high school edition. Last in this stack is the Richard Matheson book, I Am Legend. I bought this version a long time ago, and I didn't remember that I had gotten it, and I bought this version. Probably because I have been intending to read this book for a very long time, and yet never seemed to get around to it. I'm not really sure why, but I will definitely be putting this book on one of my TBR piles, so that way I remember to get to this book sooner rather than later. I think of all of the books that I will keep, I'm probably gonna get rid of the movie edition cover because it's not my favorite. Interestingly enough, both books use the exact same font and the exact same size. I mean, these books are essentially the same size, so what's the point of keeping the movie cover when I could have the other cover and it's the exact same font? So this is probably the version that I'm going to be keeping, although I need to take this $7 sticker off of it, probably check these books out and send them off to half-price books. All right, last but not least is the stack of books that I intentionally bought extra books for. They weren't gifts, they were intentional buys because, in case you haven't figured out, I do not enjoy mass market paperback editions unless the font is perfect and unless it's a very specific book that I can't get in any other way. So if there's ever a trade paperback edition of a book that I have enjoyed or a book that I know that I'm likely going to enjoy, I will probably get the mass market paperback edition. And the first book on this stack is no exception, and that is World War Z. I've been meaning to get to this book forever. I'm a huge zombie fan, and I have owned the mass market shiny paperback edition for a very long time, although I love the trade paperback. I love that it's bigger. I love the font on the inside. So this mass market paperback edition is going away. I cannot wait to get rid of these so many mass market paperbacks and keep my trade, my nice, beautiful trade paperbacks. So this is definitely a book that I'm gonna get to soon, and I can't wait. I've heard nothing but awesome things about it. I think one time, a long time ago, I read like the first 20 pages of this and was totally blown away, but for some reason I just put it down and never came back. So I hope to finish this book. Next is Robert Heinlein's The Number of the Beast. I have been very curious about this book for a long time because this book is said to have been the worst book that Heinlein has ever written. I'm not sure if that's true, but I do plan on reading it. Interestingly enough, I found this mass market paperback edition on a library book sale, I believe. Later, I found another library edition, and this is not only a mass market paperback edition, but it's also illustrated. It has all of these beautiful illustrations throughout the novel, and I am a huge sucker for an illustrated edition. So clearly this is the superior of the two. So I will definitely be getting rid of the mass market paperback edition, even though it's a vintage copy, and I will be keeping the illustrated edition. That one is going to Half Price Books. Now, another one that I found recently is actually a hand-me-down from my mom, who read Neal Stephenson's Cryptonomicon and gave me this book, I think in college, and told me that she thought I would like it since I liked his book Snow Crash. However, like any other kid in college, I completely ignored her and never read it. I've been carrying it around with me for move after move ever since college, and I finally ran into a gorgeous, large paperback edition that's definitely a trade paperback, and I love this particular edition. Not only is it bigger, not only is the font on the inside better, but they actually have yellowed the pages so it looks old on purpose. I'll have to show you a close-up of this book so that way you can see how gorgeous it is. See, you can see how they yellowed the pages with the lines intentionally, and I really love that about them. It's got a beautiful texture as well. So I'm definitely very excited to find a version of this book that my mom did not give me. So now I can actually read this book. And last but not least on this list, I have intentionally given up on Speaker for the Dead. This book has been on my top favorites list for such a long time, and I've owned this tiny little mass market paperback edition for forever. I think I've even included notes in it when I very first read it. Finally, I went out and I got the large trade paperback edition to match my version of Ender's Game, and I think I'm gonna get the rest of his series in this large edition because I enjoy holding it better. I like the bigger font, and definitely, again, I don't want the mass market paperback edition. It's just too small. So this one is definitely one that I'm actually going to be getting rid of, even though it has all of my commentary in it, and hopefully I'm going to get around to possibly doing a reread of this one soon. So that does it for all of the books on my bookshelf that I actually own a second copy of. What about you? What books do you either accidentally or purposefully own a second edition of? What about a third edition or a fourth? I'm not advanced enough in my science fiction journey yet to own a third or fourth edition, but I am really glad to be taking some of these books off my shelf so I can make room for more books. All right, guys, let me know in the comments down below. Come join me on Discord if you haven't already, and until next time. Hey guys, so I found 2 more books in my stacks that I missed when I first did the original filming of this, and it's Andre Norton's Witch World. I'm gonna pick one of them, and I'll definitely send the other one out. I don't know why I keep picking up these doubles. I don't know.
You should keep all of your doubles.
Should I?
I'm really sure that you should.
Way to spend all of my money. Thanks.
You already own them, so I feel like it's just saving money.
I should just buy 2 for
You
everything.
can have one for you and one for me. Whitney, 2 is better than 1. Just get used to it.